again for our weekly Photoshop segment with Alex Lindsay. Today we'll focus on 5 frequently asked questions from viewers that they have about Photoshop. Now, unfortunately, we're having some technical difficulties. However, the first couple, first couple of questions actually don't involve any computing at all.
Right.
And the first one, I believe, is resources for drawing with Photoshop. Someone wanted to know, Photoshop, you do all this compositing, this multi-layered thing. What about drawing, like, painting with it?
Right, and I admittedly don't cover that usually. My argument mostly is that number one is most people what they want to do is manipulate their photos. So they're going to want to put together their own. They're going to take their photos. Most people don't use Photoshop to draw. If they do, the person to talk to is Bert Monroy, and he's over at Screensavers. He also has a couple books, and there's links on the website to some of his stuff. It is, the place to go.
But I mean, is it really recommended, or do you suggest people go with something like Illustrator or even like a paint program?
No, I still think Photoshop is the way to go. I mean, there's a lot of people who do just amazing hand-drawn stuff. It's just a smaller group because that takes a lot more skill and talent around drawing. And most people who play with Photoshop don't have that. I mean, there's 4 million users or 10 million users of Photoshop.
But it's something that's feasible.
Absolutely. If you're going to do that, you're going to want to invest in something like a Wacom tablet.
Like a little graphic tablet where you have a pen instead of. I mean,
drawing with a mouse is kind of like trying to draw with a brick.
Or in my case, a bar soap. Very difficult.
Yeah.
And I actually invested in a Wacom tablet. And, the results come like 200% better because you have so much more control.
It's really the way to go. So.
All right. Second question is he wanted to know. He has a photo that he wants to blend in with the background.
Right. Now, there's you can actually go up to the website for that, and that is I did a segment earlier on for Call for Help, and there's a link on today's webpage back to blending and what I call doing color correction in channels. So going to the red, green, and blue and doing that blending manually, and that's the best place to go to find it. There's a whole little section on how to do that. So there's a lot of stuff that's still on the Call for Help pages that I would definitely check out.
Well, now that we have a camera over your shoulder, let's go into the first kind of computing one that we can do. This is about someone who has an image that looks like a color negative, although everything looks reversed.
Right. This came in from Jack Davis, and what we have here is, let me zoom up here. Now, there's a lot of these digital cameras have all kinds of goofy settings, and Jack got this when he took pictures of his kids. And he couldn't figure out. He said it looks like it's a negative.
There we go.
And the truth is that it absolutely is a negative. And
wow.
So all you have to do to handle this is to invert the photo. So if we hit Command I, we can reverse it, and there we have it.
So that's all I have to do. Select the entire image, hit Command I.
Yeah. So if it looks inverted, that's the first thing to try. And we've actually had a couple people sending that in. I guess the new Sony camera for
some reason
has that in it, and there's a bunch of people that are getting caught shooting it. It doesn't do any damage to the photo. The photo's in just as good condition.
So, but is the quality the same as if you just shot it normally? So
it won't matter.
Okay, so you're not losing any quality or image resolution. All right, that's pretty quick. What about a question about taking his whites and make him absolutely like pure white?
Right. So we had this guy actually it's a pretty amazing story. Greg Kilpack, and he is actually doing this. He's paralyzed and doing these watercolors with his mouth.
Wow.
Which is pretty.
He did that with his mouth?
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah,
I can barely do that with a good working hand.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. So just really, really amazing work. But the problem is that the paper is a little, it's not perfectly white. So the first thing to do is I'm going to take the polygonal lasso tool and just isolate.
What tool was that?
This is the polygonal lasso tool. So it's kind of like the lasso tool here. But what we have is all I'm doing is drawing around it.
So instead of making just kind of a circle or oblong oval, I can actually choose points and just select around it.
This is easier to build just kind of a rough, what I tend to call what's known as a garbage mat. So what we're doing is getting rid of all the garbage. And the garbage in this case is all the area up here. So if I invert that selection, do an inverse, so this is just the area that I want to fill.
So I'm going to invert that area that I do want my absolute white.
And then I'm just going to hold down, if I have this background set to white, and I hold down my Command or Control key on a PC and hit Delete, it'll just fill that with, it should fill it with white. Let's see here.
And this
Yeah, it is. I'm just looking at a different angle. So now, what I've done now is eliminated most of that, and I now just need to simply do a color correction to make the final change. And so by hitting levels, there's this little eyedropper here, and this is a white, and it just says make this white. So if I click here and click up here,
yeah, I can. Wow.
It'll push everything. It just pushes everything to white from that point.
Okay.
So that's the best way to just push something to pure white. You want to get rid of the major areas that might have even darker colors first, because you don't want to. The harder you push that, the more detail you're going to lose in your photos. So that's that's what you need to work on there.
All right, cool. That was good. All right, now we also have someone who has a problem with their son's wedding photo.
Right.
It was actually taken. It was too dark.
Right. So this was Rod Nottingham sent this in, and it's actually of him and his wife, and they were at their son's wedding, and what they wanted to have, they wanted to correct it. Now they wanted to correct the background, and I have to admit that there's no recoverable data. If we turn this all the way down,
wow,
this is all blown out. So once it goes to pure white, there's nothing there to get.
Okay.
So there's nothing we could do with that. But by just moving this midpoint down a little bit, we're able to really bring out a lot more detail in at least their photo. So I couldn't make the photo perfect, but we could improve it a lot more than the kind of the blown out photo that this is where it kind of started.
Okay,
out here, and I was just able to improve the photo to make it a lot clearer, but the background is gone.
Now I know you're a photographer. How would you actually shoot that so you wouldn't actually have that problem?
If I'm going to take a photo that I really want to keep, I generally bracket. So some cameras will automatically bracket where they'll shoot 3 photos right next to each other.
Okay.
And a lot of times that's the best way. If you're going to take a portrait that you really want to, you want to know it's going to work, shoot 3 or 4 exposures. And most of the digital cameras will let you do you just set it and it'll go -1, +1, and where it thinks it should be. And that's at minimum, that's what you should do. Otherwise, I tend to shoot just a touch dark because it's easier for me to bring the photo up than it is to recover white areas.
Wow. Well, it's quite amazing. We actually got through all of them, even with the issues. But I also do understand you actually have a Photoshop CD tutorial coming out.
Finally. It's actually coming out today.
Oh.
So I just released it today, and this is mostly for TechTV viewers. So we're not really, I get about 100 questions a week from TechTV viewers, and this is the first step in starting to answer their questions completely. So what I did is I did a whole tour of Photoshop, kind of a real point blank.
Are these like QuickTime movies?
They're QuickTime movies.
QuickTime movies.
And I did a whole tour of Photoshop as well as a whole bunch of applied stuff. Some of the images are the same as what you saw on TechTV, but a lot more detail. There's a coupon on the TechTV on the Call for Help website.
Nice. Very nice.
This is mostly just for TechTV and DV Garage users. It's called Basics 15. Capital B, Basics 15 is the coupon.
Okay.
And you'll get 30% off. So,
thanks a lot, Alex.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You're like the crown jewel in our crown of Photoshop tips. All right. Hey, if you missed